Thank you, Dato. Ladies and gentlemen, the first session of insight sharing on the COVID-19 disruption reflections from across ASEAN is a 90-minute session moderated by Ms. Olivia Mazuki, a business journalist and a board member of ASEAN Young Women Entrepreneurs Club, Indonesia. I will now pass the floor to the moderator.
Thank you, Asta. Can everybody hear me? Yeah? Everyone can hear me and see me, I hope. It's my great pleasure. I'm so happy that I'm given this opportunity and this privilege to moderate the first session, the most highly anticipated. And joining with me today are all amazing speakers, experts in their own industries and fields, and excellent examples of ASEAN-based business community. So I'd like to welcome on board our speakers today. And first of all, I will call their names out according to the sequence that we're going to go through for today. First of all, we have Ms. Vianney Manao. She's the co-founder and chief commercial officer of Shoks Rumahan. Can you just give us a little wave, Ms. Vianney? Hello. Selamat pagi, my fellow Indonesian. So second speaker, we have Ms. Queenie Chong. She's co-founder and CEO of Memory.io, representing Brunei. A little wave from Ms. Queenie. Hi there. Okay. Is there a background noise to my microphone? My house is very quiet right now. But are we clear? Can everybody hear me clearly? Please.
Olivia, there's a little bit of the crackling I hear too.
Crackling. Okay. What about now? Can we try again? Is the crackling noise still there?
Yep.
It is still there? Okay, no problem. Let me just introduce all the speakers and then I will switch to my backup device. But I'll just finish introducing all the speakers and then we will present the first sharing session by Ms. Vianney a bit later. So I've introduced Ms. Vianney, I've introduced Queenie. Next is Mr. Vishal Vijay. Mr. Vishal Vijay, he's the director and head of business development, strategic investments at AgroCorp International from Singapore. Just a little wait for us. Thank you, Mr. Vishal. And next we have Mr. Tad Hachalilaha. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Mr. Tad is right. Assistant Managing Director, Join and Join Corporation, joining us from Thailand. Next, we have Mr. Christopher Tok. Mr. Chris is the CEO of Digitally.Asia Group from Malaysia. Just a little wait for everyone. If you can hear us, thank you, Mr. Chris. Last but not least, we have Mr. Tan Tai Nguyen at Allen. He's the CEO, Proven Group of Companies, and also President of Yangon Region, Young Entrepreneurs Association from Myanmar. A little wave for everybody, please. Okay, so first of all, let me just hand over the stage to Ms. Vianney while I'm switching over to my backup device. Ms. Vianney, selamat pagi. Would you like to introduce yourself and basically tell us more about your business? We'd like to know more about you. What is Shoks Rumahan? The floor is yours.
Let me share my screen. Hope you can hear my voice clearly as well. So yeah, good morning. My name is Vianney. Good morning. My name is Vianney, representative from HIPMI, Himpunan Entrepreneur Indonesia Muda. Thank you so much for sorry. Let me stop sharing. Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So Shoks Rumahan is actually e-commerce focusing on rural area. Why rural area? It's because the logistics cost and then the production cost in rural area Indonesia can be like 3 times until 5 times higher than the cities. If you know Bali, if you know Jakarta, is a tier 1 city in Indonesia. But rural area is actually less than 10,000 population. Let me sharing my screen and then start the sharing session. Okay. So I'm Fiani from Jakarta, Indonesia, representative of YEAB, Indonesia Young Entrepreneurs Association. So in my previous company last year, our CEO decided to work from Bali, and I ended up also follow him to work on Bali. So at that time, business was a little bit shaky, but I have like a tremendous experience working from the nice villa with a good view. But if we take a look at the rural communities, they don't have any opportunities to have the same experience as mine because they don't have any facilities, they don't have internet bandwidth, and also probably they don't have also smartphone. Not everyone has the laptop as well. And a lot of blue collar workers were facing layoffs. So talking about the rural city, as I mentioned before, Jakarta population is at 10 million population. Bali, 700,000, and rural city less than 10,000. And then we have 75,000 rural villages in Indonesia. So before COVID, we provide additional income for our agents in rural area. Think about multi-level marketing, but without recruiting the downline or registration fee. So our agent will get commission for every purchase she made. She will distribute, she will sell to the members. And on the other side, members has the opportunity to buy the household needs in installment. So they don't have credit score in rural area. That's why we use the community base, and the credit score is based on the community judgment because they know everybody for a long time as a neighbors. And then what happened during COVID? Before COVID, we do the offline gathering, as you can see on the left-hand side. But with COVID, we migrate 80% to online gathering. We teach them how to use Zoom. We give them the internet credit. We use our promotion to equip them. And we not only selling the household goods, but also we sell additional items like business equipment so they can start to do the business. So if we do rural visit once a month before COVID, during COVID, we can speak, we can talk, we can get feedback from our customers even more on daily basis. And as the result, our business grew 3 times in 6 months during pandemic. So I think with the story that I share, the key takeaway is one. There's only one boss, and your one boss is your customer. Know your customer before COVID, during COVID, and also post-COVID to get the feedback from them, and also make the impact from them. So that's it from me. Thank you so much, everybody. Good morning.
Thank you so much. Terima kasih banyak, Ms. Yani. There was some interesting insights, and we'd like to know more about your business a bit later on. But first of all, I'd like to give the opportunity to my friend Queenie here. She's from Memory.io, also my fellow board member at ASEAN Young Women Entrepreneurs Club. So I'd like to present Queenie. Please, your time is up. It starts now.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, AYEC, YEAB, and ASEAN-BSC for having me here today. So, as introduced, I'm Queenie from Brunei, also known as the Queen of Death, simply because I'm very passionate about end-of-life planning. 3 years ago, I took a leap of faith by leaving my government job and venture into startups to solve a problem that's very close to my heart and a topic that no one is willing to talk about. In 2019, I had gone through a full year of international pitching competitions and fundraising for my legacy planning startups, Memory.io. This includes an online will generator and a blockchain storage for important documents. Why will writing? Honestly, this wasn't my initial idea at all. In fact, I started by looking into e-commerce for coffins. However, I think many of you predicted the e-commerce idea didn't go far because I learned that the market in Brunei wasn't ready for it. And the VC, on the other hand, were not very keen. So while validating the online will generator, the pandemic struck. Interestingly, during this period, many of the inquiries were about Islamic inheritance law. So we listened and doubled down our efforts in this space, and eventually a new Islamic division called Miraf.io was born. We first started with an online platform that allows the general public to purchase a Janata kit, which is funeral kit for personal use, and eventually extended the service to purchase funeral kits for economical challenge disease. Our funeral kits were well received, and we saw the first 50 kits with organic reach. After being COVID-free for 1 year, right, in Brunei, 3 months ago, the second wave of COVID-19 in Brunei had taken all of us by surprise. This time, we were locked down, and most importantly, public facilities, including the malls, were closed. Well, this means we had to put our operations on hold. During this critical time, an Instagram follower suggested us to look into the funeral kits for COVID-19 deceased patients. We thought it was a great idea. Immediately, we sought advice from the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Religious Affairs, and the new product was born. As much as the second wave took the country by surprise, the newly launched COVID-19 funeral kits took us by surprise too. We sold $10,000 worth of funeral kits in just 3 days. So yeah, looking forward to share more later on. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Queenie. Can people hear me better this time? I'm using my second device. No more background noise. I promise there's no noise in my house right now. I'm the only one. Thank you so much. But yeah, technical problems aside, we just need to move ahead and power on, continue on. All right, we've heard from Queenie just now, the Queen of Death, a very, very interesting business model. We'd like to find out more about it a bit later on. But first of all, we are going to present the next opportunity to our next speaker, Mr. Vishal Vijay, Director, Head of Business Development, Strategic Investments, Agro Corp International, also in Singapore, like me. Vishal.
Thanks, Olivia, and special thanks to the ASEAN Youth Entrepreneurs Carnival for the invitation, as well as the Young Business Leaders Network in Singapore. I'm very happy to be here, and really looking forward to this panel with some of the most entrepreneurial and driven minds in this region. So I represent a company called AgroCorp. It's a business that's owned and operated by my family for the last 30 years. We are a global food and agricultural commodities supply chain company based here in Singapore. I know that's a mouthful, but really what we do is we buy. Asia and Asia primarily is a very large population center, which tends to import quite a bit of its food and agricultural needs, and we try to fulfill that by buying product as close to where it's grown and as close to farmers as possible. So we have operations in countries like in agricultural exporters such as Canada, Australia, the US, and as well as in certain Southeast Asian countries like Myanmar, which exports as well. And we're primarily active in product like grains, pulses, soybeans, corn, and the like. COVID has presented a real, there was the initial impact and then the derivative impact, which is something that we're still going through. I mean, the initial impact was, the economic shock, the adjustments to interest rates, the lockdowns. The initial impact was, trying to also, take care of health and safety. Make sure that our staff were working in a safe environment. All of that, was what really got us scrambling in the first few months of COVID, and we were able to deal with that really well. But the subsequent derivative impact, honestly, has been challenging in its own right, and this is where we've seen, and I'm sure a lot of the other panelists are also experiencing it, where we've seen significant challenges on supply chain with moving goods from our origins to destinations. Which and also there's been challenges with one is the ability to ship, and the other is the cost of shipping, right? So those have really proved to be quite challenging to deal with, and remains an issue that we are constantly working through. Opportunities that this period has brought to us is, we are active in the food industry, and we try to stay abreast of all the latest trends, because if we're not, then we're no longer relevant. And I think the COVID pandemic has provided a greater awareness amongst all of us on health and nutrition, on sustainability as well. And on the back of that, we've actually decided to launch, our business interests in plant-based foods. So, for the last few months, we've launched a plant-based brand in Singapore, which is doing reasonably well, and we've launched a food innovation lab that's conceptualizing interesting plant-based dairy and milk, cheese and egg replacements, which we're hoping to bring to the market over the next few months. So I think we're quite excited about that too. So yeah, I wish I had a nice presentation. Unfortunately, I don't. But really happy to be in this panel, and look forward to taking all the questions.
Thank you so much, Vishal. We are all excited to know about just the idea of food sustainability and plant-based foods. That's like the new trend, right, going forward. More and more people are going to be forced to accept the new normal in terms of what we eat as well.
Absolutely.
So I'll get back to you on that a bit later, but first of all, I'd like to present the next stage to our next panelist, Mr. Tad Hachat Lelaha. Sawadika, Mr. Tad. Yes, we'd like to hear from you. Yeah.
Yes, you.
About your business and about yourself.
Okay. First of all, thank you everyone to having me here, especially for the YEAC. My name is Mr. Tad. I am represent from Thailand, and my business is JNC, which is retail business. So first of all, let me reflect to you the COVID-19 disruptions in Thailand and then my business. For COVID-19, I think resilience, survival, and digital transformations, as well as globalization to localizations, are the four main keywords that happened in Thailand for the last 2 years in the pandemic. The space of COVID-19 comes with the absence of uncertainty, the lockdown of large parts of society, and social distancing, resulting in behavioral changes. Surely it is a challenging time for most business. However, it does come with the infinite opportunity regarding to the innovation in society, environment, and business, which are, for example, from factory to website, from bank to non-bank, from logistics to unicorn, from ownership to accessible, from fuel energy to green energy, and from single business channel to multi-channel and business channel. And from these transformations with the COVID-19 that reflect to my business as well, my business used to be retail, but with the COVID-19, we have transformed business into multi-channel, which combining wholesale, retail, direct selling, and franchising at the same platform. And we help the society to have a career in rural area, in which later on I will expand. And I'm welcome if anyone have questions, we can discuss later on. Thank you.
ขอบคุณค่ะ Mr. Tad.
ขอบคุณครับ
Yeah, we would definitely learn more from you a bit later on your reflection of the business during the pandemic. But I'd like to also introduce our next panelist before we get there. Mr. Christopher Talk, he's the CEO of Digitally.Asia Group from Malaysia. Hi there, Christopher. Tell us about yourself and your business, please. Can you please unmute yourself, first of all?
Sorry about that.
That's
Hi guys.
great. No problem at all.
No worries. Everything clear?
Yes, all good.
Okay, thank you. All right, so thank you guys for inviting me. So basically, my name is Christopher Talk, and I'm the CEO of Digitally Asia Group. Basically, I run two organizations before this. One is iProject, and one is Social Groups, which is the digital agency. But here I am going to talk about how the incident of COVID-19 made me lose almost 500,000, and I had to close the company as well because if not, I wouldn't be able to survive the pandemic. And I'm not the only one in Malaysia. I think more than 600,000 businesses have closed throughout the 2 years. So it is a really big impact for us in Malaysia. I wrote about it in my LinkedIn page, and a lot of media came out to ask me about it, and Vulcan Post is one of them. And it was an opportunity for me to say to other entrepreneurs that what I've learned could be what they can do to help themselves to not only don't if you have no choice but to close, then do it because you need to survive. But if you have a choice to pivot, if you have a choice to find new ways of doing things, like what we're hearing just now, right? Opportunities, then change it. Don't let ego come to you. Don't let any other things come to your way that makes you you think that you still have what it takes and you still can go on, because the fact of the matter is that COVID-19 blows a hole in everybody's mistakes, right? So it is been a challenge, like an organization that I've built for so many years, and I've spent so much money on, and I had to close it because it's a very big challenge for me, but I did it anyway because I wanted to do my best in the other business that is actually, for me, an opportunity to make more money and more growth. And so that's what I did. I listened to all the advices. I refused to receive negative feedback, and I changed myself by some of these 7 things that I can't explain now, but these are the 7 things that helped me to change the way I am today. And today I'm so proud that our businesses, the other business that I didn't really focus on, flourished very much, and I was one of the winners of the Outstanding Business Turnaround Awards, where it shows that even my previous years is nothing compared to the revenue I've made this year. So this is really a testimony of how, with the pain and anguish that we feel through losing our staff, losing our team members, losing our confidence, can really change as long as we're willing to change ourselves, to have a growth mindset instead of narrow mindset. And the next thing you can be that next multi-millionaire who can really provide more jobs for more people and really impact a lot of other people's lives. So love yourself more, guys. I'd love to share with you more in this panel session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'd love to hear more on that. Definitely. Last but not least, our number 6 panelist for this session is Mr. Alan Lewin at Tan Haik Lewin, CEO of Proven Group of Companies and also President of Yangon Region Young Entrepreneurs. Ming Laba.
Ming Laba. Good morning, everyone.
Please introduce yourself and your business.
Now, first of all, I'd like to thank AYEC for inviting me and having me over here. And also, I would like to congratulate our fellows panelists to being part of this panel. I'm actually the My name is Alan Loin, and I am the second generation in the proven group of companies. And my dad and a friend founded up the battery manufacturing company back in 1996. Now today, this year is 26 years anniversary for our company. But of course, we weren't able to celebrate because of the COVID situation. And we started with the battery manufacturing back in 96. Then we slowly expand our business into lead recycling because we want to be responsible on the product that we sell. We sell and we take back the used battery, recycle them, put it back into a new life, and also make the lead and then sell globally. And then we set up the plastic injection company because we also want to make sure that we have all the required, materials made in-house, but made with the strategic investors and strategic partners in the different companies. So we have multiple companies in manufacturing, mainly focused on automotive before the COVID. And then also we are doing the auto parts distribution and anything to do with spare parts, auto care product, we import and distribute. And I'm also the founder and the chairman of the Auto Parts Association in Myanmar as well. And then we expanding to investment into automotive sectors. So we invested into this public company that was set up the automotive commercial zone in Myanmar, which I become a president of the company also in the past 2 years. So we are basically a manufacturing company, but then later trying to diversify into investments and trying to drive the growth of the automotive segment in Myanmar. And of course, with the COVID situation, a lot of people do not commute as much as before. And that has been a biggest challenge for every one of us, I believe. And I hope that as the COVID continue to ease in the future, we will try to find a different way of commuting. And I hope that also moving from typical traditional energy sector business to green energy sector, that's something that we are more focused on for the future growth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan. So we've heard from all the 6 panelists and how they basically sum everything up in 3 minutes about their business and about their ventures. We'd like to hear more and staying on the topic of COVID-19 disruptions and how we reflect from what's happened the last 20 months or so. We being the faces of ASEAN business players, how are we surviving actually? Are we surviving at all? So that's a question I'd like to ask. That's my first question to all of the panelists. So I'd like to start by Ms. Yani. I'd like to ask you this. Ms. Yani, so Shoks Rumahan, we've heard just a brief introduction of what the business is, but can you get us more, deeper understanding of how you actually managed to stay afloat during the pandemic? And how much difference do you see from pre-COVID to the present time?
All right. Thank you for the question, Olivia. So actually, Shoks Rumahan is a social commerce business, right? So we are approaching a lot of ladies, a lot of women in rural area to have additional income. When COVID hit, we don't know what happened with this lady. Are they able to sell more? Because if they don't sell, they cannot get the commission, meaning they cannot get the additional income for their family, right? But because we're directly talking to them, before that, we're teaching them how to use digital platform because we cannot visit their rural village. So we have like a different approach for every villages. For example, for the villages that focusing on travel, we can do something. We can help them to learn new things that can create and being a new business that can be helpful for the social. Cooking, making something during Lebaran, during festive season, that can benefit the society and also herself. So what we do is we go one until 2 until 3 level, like down and really hands-on to understand the situation region by region. And we get the opportunity from that, and we start slowly to build their confidence to get the additional income.
Great, thank you so much, Ms. Yani. So, Queenie, the Queen of Death. Queenie, so yeah, I guess of all the business models that we've seen just now, yours is among the most interesting ones because you're dealing with something that people have been avoiding. Living people are avoiding, obviously. So yeah, give us a better picture of how you actually started the business. I understand that the pandemic has only propelled memory to the next level. But yeah, just guide us through. You have more than 3 minutes now to actually introduce us more about the business model.
Okay, thank you, Olivia, for the question. So so let me just start with how I even came up with the idea, right? When I was working with the government, I think there was a time that I lost my grandparents, and during the funeral, I realized that a lot of things were not being told. For example, what our grandparents' wishes, how they would like their funeral arrangements to be, and most importantly, you know, how the wealth should be distributed, right? So my grandfather actually has a very nice house by the beach, and there were about 16 aunties and uncles, and for the grandchildren we have about more than like 20 plus. Yeah, I lost count of it. So and the question is, right, we only have one house, but how do we distribute it? And I hear like families were discussing about it even during the funeral, and that got me thinking, right? Why can't we discuss all these matters, you know, before my grandparents pass away? So I started looking into this matter, and I found that in Brunei alone, 99% of us do not have, you know, legacy planning, basically preparing for the end of life. And I thought it was, you know, and I thought that maybe this is Brunei, right? And when I look into the ASEAN level, even Singapore itself, 85% of them do not have a will writing. So I thought maybe that is the opportunity. We actually, like I mentioned earlier, we look into online will writings. So I actually have to study, you know, a lot of because I have to develop the website, right? So I have to look into a lot of will writing template, and also have to read up a lot of will act and a lot of clauses as well to ensure that we are able to develop the first online will writing that caters to Brunei citizens and also the permanent citizens. Yeah, and then that's along the way, of course, yeah, we chance upon, you know, like new division and all others.
Definitely, it's a new skill that you learn, right? I mean, something that you never thought you would be an expert in, will writing, and all the different rituals and different religious backgrounds, obviously, to cater for all the different families. So we'll get back to you on that, on how you actually navigated, and probably your high and low moments. So we'd like to hear more from you on that. But I'd like to throw the next question to Mr. Vishal. Vishal, so, okay, food business, right? This is a never dying business. Pardon the pun. Queenie's dealing with dying, but food is never dying. We will always need food until the end of our lives. So how is the pandemic actually speeding up the business opportunities that you find in market right now? And how is it impacting your agro business?
So that's a very good question. I mean, initially when the pandemic struck, there was this shock, right? I mean, a lot of countries, especially in Southeast Asia, stopped exporting because they wanted to consolidate supplies while they figured, how the situation was going to play out. So, for example, countries like Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar all closed exports for a period of 1 to 2 months. Which meant that other typical importers, a country like Singapore, for example, found itself requiring alternative sources for some of the product coming in. So we were able to assist a little bit with we work closely with NTUC to get some of the required product like rice, like some canned food coming in through countries from Europe, for example, or through India, which was still exporting at the time. That was the initial impact. But subsequently, I think, as I mentioned, I think this pandemic has increased the awareness amongst the population, especially in Asia, for health and wellness, for nutrition, and we're seeing this. As a result, we're seeing a faster scale of adoption for the corresponding food products and categories. So, for example, I spoke about plant-based food earlier. I think we've seen the adoption in the Asia Pacific region to have really scaled up over the last few months. And Olivia, you're seeing it too, I'm sure. With even Channel News Asia, for example, has really been covering a lot of the startups that have been putting interesting products in the market, and that comes from the fact that news agencies are covering it. It comes from consumer interest, right? So I think, and that's something in Singapore, but you can see it, just last week, we saw, I was reading about a company in Indonesia that's really pushing the frontier over there. And each of the countries have their own champions for plant-based food and more sustainable. It's not just plant-based, but also food that is more nutritionally dense, better for you. Also product food that is more sustainable. That allows you to limit the kind of impact that you're having on the environment. So I think that's where the industry is going. And for a player like us, we are more active on a B2B level as opposed to B2C. But it all eventually manifests itself up to the supply chain business that we're doing. When consumers are looking for more of a certain kind of product, food manufacturers correspondingly will look more for that kind of product, and then suppliers like us will then have to originate that kind of product too. So simple things, like for example, we supplied a lot of the flour millers in Indonesia, and we've been seeing that there's been a larger requirement for high protein wheat for that industry as well, which comes from the requirement from the market for something that's better nutritionally for you too. So I think I hope that kind of answers the question.
No, definitely, Vishal, you're so right there. I mean, we news agencies can never talk enough of it. We always try and find angles and stories from the consumer side, from the producer side, and how the supply chain in between is just so disrupted that we just took things for granted pre-pandemic, and now we realize, oh, it's hard to get baby carrots and NTUC these days. Like, what's happening? So things like that actually only heighten our awareness on how critical it is to basically have sustainable ways in approach to basically making ourselves more self-sustainable, especially in a place like Singapore. So thank you for that. We'll explore more on how disruptions actually bring about more opportunities for us in the future. But I'd like to also ask this question to Mr. Tat in Thailand. So Mr. Tat, how has the pandemic changed your business model in Join and Join Corporation? How is it actually changing your perspective? Is it actually a positive impact or negative impact for you?
Okay, please kindly let me share my slide so I can explain it more clearly. Just a second. Okay, right now, can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes. Slight delay, but we can see it.
Okay, this is full screen right now. Okay, so that I have mentioned to you guys earlier that my business is retail. Actually, JNC is in business for 20 years, and 20 years for retail. And for the pre-COVID time, we have faced the difficult situations on the expanding the business, because in retail, what do you think? Retail is about detailing. We have to deal with supplier, we have to deal with partnership, and we have to do some promotions to attract customers to visit the physical store, right? But 5 years ago, before COVID, we have faced the difficulty in the business, in the technologies that we have new competitors from overseas, like social platform marketplace, and we have the competitors from run trades that expand markets to the rural area as well, that we have the branches in rural area. That's why we think that if we keep opening the new branches, we will lose the revenues, because customers choose to buy things from online. That's why we need to transform our retail business to online business, and turning our retail from the physical place to the showroom, and transform business to dropship model. So in that time, it was difficult time to convert the model, but for the COVID, everything that we do it's easier, because people tend to have social distancing, and the Thai government tend to support the technological adoptions to rural people. That's why we transform our retail place to be the sharing resource to the traditional trade, and those traditional trades can use our point of sale and our logistic system that share with our branches, and they become our partnership. So right now we have over 200 communities in traditional trade in rural area that become our allies and use our system and order our product, and we deliver the product to them so that they can resell the price, and we develop the loyalty program into the Nexploit channel that they can recruit people in the form of cooperative system. Yes, so this is a new kind of new business model that we developed in COVID-19, and we can lower the cost of our physical place and increase the business revenue by the franchise and drop shipping model. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tat. So Christopher, on to you now. Christopher, would like to understand better about how you navigate this business, Digitally Asia, during the pandemic. Can you probably share with us your highs and lows? What have you learned so far?
So definitely. So by myself, so our group was about 20 plus people. We had quite a number of challenges trying to scale, because as you know, as I think some of our friends here, they all need digital consultation. They need to know how to move from what they had before to what they have to do right now to adapt to the digitalization, right? How do you go to e-commerce? What platform should I use? Shopify? Should I use store in stores like Lazada, Shopee? So there was a lot of like requests, and we couldn't accommodate. So what happened is that I actually met with another partner, another company called Cost Effect, who is a performance marketing expert, and they deal with all the ad spends. And the one good thing about them is that they've done 500,000 ringgit Malaysian ad spend per month before. So this means that we can then accommodate more, right? More people, more users, more bigger spending power that normally other people cannot. So we merged. We actually, it was scary for me, right? Imagine a person that has 100% authority, a shareholder, and suddenly I have to like merge with a company and give my best to support each other as a partner. But that is something that I did, right? Throughout the session of of the loss of the company and having let go a number of people from the other company, I said I need to back up myself, and because I need to serve more people, I need to save more businesses, from going down, from what I experienced. So that's what I did. We merged and we made the announcement, and from then things picked up. Our businesses, our revenue picked up. More people came to us. More people wanted to find out how do I serve a different community. For example, there were a lot of gaming communities, right? People who are playing esports. I think it's huge in all the ASEAN countries. And so what we did is we worked with the publishers, for example, PUBGM, and then we worked with like FMCG brand like Mountain Dew, for example, and we merged them together. We made a contest so that if you buy a Mountain Dew drink and you can like scan the QR code and put in the code, you can get an in-game gift. So these are like all the innovative things that we cut across different types of digital divide, whether they're gamers or they are people who like to go shopping, and we find out what appeals the brand can have to provide to the consumer, and we make the right match, and everything just goes crazy. So that is the most experimental time that we had over the last 1 year, things that we will never do before this, and COVID made it happen for us. So even now we're actually looking into the Web3, right? The metaverse. Facebook changed the name to Meta, and they're launching AR, VR kind of content, and a lot of companies are saying, how can I get there? And that's something that we are trying to embolden ourselves to be more skillfully adapting to it, so that we can also teach the businesses how to achieve that. But all in all I've said is all the nice things. What I didn't tell you is the hard things that happens on the entrepreneur side, and my management team that suddenly has to back up. We cannot hire 5 people now. We can only hire 1 person. Myself, I now have to work with a partner, and my partner tells me, I'm doing things wrong. I have to be, I have to be tougher. I can't just give bonuses just because they will be with me for 5 years. I now have to make sure that they do their work in order for me to eventually put it into a system where I give them what they deserve. So we keep the best performing ones, and then we have to let go of the not so good performing ones. And that is the toughest things I think all of us, as entrepreneurs had to face. And I think that's where I really excelled. And just a last note, I thought to myself, a lot of times we had downturns for the last how many decades, right? And hundreds of years. Those people that didn't manage to come across, were they those people who were too stubborn and couldn't change, or were they, like me, like you guys who managed to pivot and do something new, and then come out stronger than ever before? So that's something that I wanted to share.
Thank you, Chris. I'd like to see myself as being stubborn, but for a good reason. Things that don't need changing, we don't change because we know it works, right? But of course, like this whole pandemic era really changed our paradigm. And back to your company name, this actually triggers my curiosity. So do we pronounce it as digitally or digital ally? Because it has 2 meanings, right?
Yes, that's a great one. Yeah.
What's behind the name?
Our company name is digitally.asia because we want to lead a digital first world, but we purposely put it in this way so that our tagline is your digital ally. So anytime you want to get into digital, and I'm not talking about your normal social media marketing, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, I'm talking about totally transforming your business to digital, digitalizing your HR process, your sales process, your your inventory process. This is what we want to help businesses to overcome and also to succeed, because you're not only getting more sales, you're also cutting a lot of cost. So thanks for putting out. Yeah.
So definitely, I mean, if it wasn't because of the pandemic, I think we'd all be sitting in the same on the same stage in Bandar Sri Begawan right now in Brunei, where they're hosting.
We would love that though. Right? I think face to face is still going to be so important, and even more so after we experience this whole Zooms for meetings and all these virtual events. So I think it's really a breed between online and offline, and now we appreciate it even more, so we don't waste our time offline as well. So I think all our panelists agree with me that hybrid will be the biggest things to happen in the next few years.
Yeah, probably next year we will have both this type of video conferencing, and I'll be sitting next to Queenie, for example. That's right. Looking forward to that. So, okay, so how has the pandemic affect your business? I'd like to ask this question to Mr. Alan Luen now. How has COVID-19 crisis become an opportunity for proven group of companies?
Well, every crisis come with the opportunity, right? We just have to find and utilize it. So mainly our product is battery manufacturing, which is the automotive sector. So as the pandemic happened, a lot of people stopped commuting, right? And they were locked down between one state to another. So there was a very, very less commuting between one place and another. So our sales were dropping. So we look at it and say, hey, what are the areas that we should really look at on, right? So focus on. So we are looking into, essential consumer that need to buy the batteries at any time, right? Basically going back into agriculture businesses. Because what I found was that people living in the, big cities, they actually move out to the rural area, and because they want to get away from this, this big population and things like that. So then some of the people move out to the rural area, then they start making, farming and things like that. I can see that agri is going to grow. Regardless, people have to eat. So that area will continue to grow and give us a stable, fundamental business continuity. So we want to focus on that area. Then also we look into logistic area, because logistics need to be there, because even to transport product from goods from one place to another, there will be some commercial logistic. So then we focus on the commercial logistic. And then we look into telecommunication, because then people start using more mobile than before, basically using all the, digital and app and everything. So tower company became, consuming more power, right? So then we're going into telecom businesses. So we look into, essential area where we can supply our product. So these are the areas that we did. But of course, other companies we also face some, difficulties. Depends on company to company, right? Some company, such as like a metal recycling company, instead of supplying to our own, we actually, trying to find a balance and say, hey, why don't we just consider export more? Because this is a commodity that we can export globally. So we did that. So it's kind of natural hedge for me as a currency. At the same time, it creates me a more stable income and a focused income as a revenue. So that's what we did. But on the automotive parts sector, of course, automotive sector was the one that hits the hardest, right? Because people don't drive out, and people tend to forget their cars and vehicle to care, right? So that was the hardest hit. But then again, we look at it as the group strategy, and we started making new KPIs, new milestones, new objectives, and to see what are the things that we could achieve, what are the things that we could let go. And again, there are things that we definitely have to let go, because that may not suit with the current ongoing pandemic situation. Actually, we are at the very beginning. We're planning to set up a new big factories, but then we have to postpone it because of the pandemic. Because we do not know what is the future ahead of us, right? So instead of expanding, we're looking into stability and business continuity. Again, I agree with Chris that the hardest things we ever faced was whether we should retrench or should we continue with this. Because especially in the automotive sector, people are very nervous. My shareholder were nervous. Everybody was concerned. So I have to keep communicating with our shareholder, our customer, suppliers, of banks, stakeholders, basically, have to really communicate with them, keep in touch with them to build the confidence among ourselves. But one opportunity that I found was that we are based in Myanmar, so we are the local manufacturing company in Myanmar. Because of the logistic issue, global logistic issue, a lot of our competitors cannot, send their cargoes in Myanmar. So we found this as an opportunity to really, expand our network, really continue supporting our customers, to tell them that we can supply to you at any time, anywhere, and we try to, innovate ourselves from typical sort of like traditional distribution into going to online things like that. We made our own app. Consumer go into our app and check the app and say where they can get the batteries, where they can get the services. All these things we're trying to innovate ourselves into the next level of a player. Again, the biggest opportunity I think is that we have more time, and time is the most valuable thing, right? Because of this pandemic, we are commuting less, so we have more time. We have more time to meet people. We can have more discussions, and that gives us really to spend more time with the people that we think is more important as a families, at the same time as our colleague, at the same time with our customers, And that's make us to be different, seeing things differently and act differently and commute differently. Thank you.
Interesting. What you thought was competitor becomes our partners and allies, right? During the pandemic, because we need each other. We should collaborate or we die. Basically, that's how we should survive. I would like to zoom in on Dato Timothy Ong's points earlier before we start the session. He said things don't go as planned, especially in this new normal, whatever normal means. But as part of our efforts being adaptable, being agile, being innovative, how are you finding, making decisions in your business changed? What are the toughest choices that you had to make? When I say tough, it could mean bitter, it could mean sour, it could mean upsetting people. Let's zoom in on that, because we'd like to learn from each other how you actually go about dropping bad news, for example. Because it's important to know how you do something and then you come to the end result. And that end result means recovery. So before we get to recovery, I'd like to zoom in on your pain points and headaches that you had to go through during the pandemic. What was your lowest time? I'd like to ask this question to my fellow Indonesian, Nisviani, first.
Thank you, Olivia. So I think the thing that makes us as a company, as a leader, experience a very hard time is when people doesn't know where to go. Like uncertainty is really visible at that time, right? And then people just asking about, hey, what about our runway? Hey, what about our sales? What if it's dropping, and etc. So as a leader, I'm also worried. But we need to step back and think and provide like the solution and the honest answer, actually. So luckily, we already did the layoff because we want to stick to our cost ratio just before COVID. That's why after COVID hits, then people started thinking, is it gonna be the next layoff, phase 2? So yeah, it's really hard for the leader, for the management to convince them that let's try another way, let's stick together, and then focus on what we can do. Focus on the new way that we don't know the result is. So I think we transfer knowledge and also mentality of entrepreneurship a little bit more to our employee at that time.
And it's also important that we communicate it in a way that it gives people a sense of hope too, because the pandemic is not, well, it is going to stay for a long time, but it's not, it doesn't come without any solution. I mean, there's no crisis that has no end, right? All problems must have a solution. All problems must come to an end eventually. How do you approach this part of your communicating to the Indonesian women, especially those from the less privileged backgrounds? I mean, there's a different way to talk to them, right? How do you can't see them face to face? How do you talk to them?
So we have our sales team in every village. One sales team manage 3 until 5 villages. So sales team used to do the demonstration of the product, right? But that's not the priority at that time. The priority is to teach them how to use the digital. So we can do the face-to-face through, not face-to-face, but online communication, video call. And then we use like a lot of reference, what has been happened with Indonesia. A lot of earthquake, tsunami, probably terror also. And we check that we can come back, we can rebound as Indonesian women, as a nation, we can rebound really quickly. So I studied psychology like long back, and then usually after like a big, massive disaster, natural disaster, people find a PTSD. So it's not like a post-traumatic syndrome disease because of the big event like tsunami. But in Aceh, they don't find it in Indonesian. So yeah, we are a strong company. We are a strong nation. We can do this. So yeah, using the reference from what happened in Indonesia, so I think it's quite relatable to them.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you, Vianney. If there's one nation that I can say the most resilient, that would be Indonesia. And all Indonesians have this drive, this motivation, like whatever happens, badai, hujan, banjir, like all that, you name a disaster, we just come out stronger the next day. We're like, yeah, let's do this. And we know, yeah,
smiling during.
We're still smiling. We're still very positive. So that's what I really I'm proud about, about Indonesia. So now coming back to the question of tough decisions that you had to make, Queenie, you're dealing with a business where people are at their lowest point in their lifetime, losing people that they love, losing people closest to them in the family. It is tough. It is hard. But I'd like to zoom in on you personally. What's the toughest decision that you have to make? You must be absorbing all these sadness, grievances, negative energy in this kind of industry, funeral homes and will writing and these really tough, sometimes taboo topics. What's your lowest moment? Can you share with us on that?
Thank you, Olivia. Yeah, the lowest moment. I guess the pandemic has really accelerated, right, the awareness of death and also the importance of what I'm doing. In fact, I was quite busy. I was quite busy when the pandemic struck. Simply because, like I mentioned, in 2019, I was really like focusing on will writing. And then 2020, when the pandemic struck, we saw opportunity. In fact, it was also my team, the one who suggested, me to look into the Islamic market. So definitely, I'm hearing more and more people. I would say that it's somehow a little bit more heartwarming because a lot of inquiry, a lot of people are coming to me. I think instead of feeling like a lot of like grief and sadness, they come to me saying thank you to me. Thank you for starting this company, and thank you for helping them. Like at least they were aware. Some of them because they were aware that it's good to start planning early. Yeah, a lot of my younger generation, even like in the 20s, they were like approaching me, say, hey, I want to look into this, even for myself. And then where can I start? Even though I just, a fresh graduate or I just started my career. So I feel very happy because at least the awareness is there. And second thing is some of them actually lost their parents as well. So I was there for them they were like asking me, so like Queenie calling me, in the middle of the night as well, said, Queenie, my parents passed away. What can I do? Can you connect me to the funeral directors in Brunei? And so I have to call them and give them suggestions as well. For example, in Brunei we have 4 districts, right? So I have to know that their locations and then also know what are their preference. So whether like for the non-Muslim, would they prefer cremation or burial, and then what's the plan post funeral, right? For the Muslim, they also asked me about like where to get the funeral kit, for example, and also how to handle the distributions. So I guess there's a lot of more opportunity. Apart from the funeral kit, right, we are now also, moving up the chain. So I started with will writing, which is like, pre-planning. So, but COVID makes me focus on the, post, the the death, right, which is the last journey of the person. So during the pandemic, I look into Islamic inheritance law. I chanced upon wasiat, hiba, and also the farad calculations. Yeah, so together with my team that taught me about what is it in the Al-Quran that says about Islamic inheritance. So that was able to help them to navigate, to help them with the process as well. So for myself, I think because like I mentioned, right, I was quite busy with identify the opportunity, and also because of all these, like thank you messages and also all these encouragement words, and it really helps me get through the pandemic.
And it is very encouraging for us too, like knowing that such a young, bright woman from Brunei can actually come out stronger, from this pandemic, such as yourself. So I'd like to thank you also for helping people in Brunei and make their lives easier after having their loved ones depart from this earth. So thank you so much, Queenie, Queen of Death. But yeah, coming back to tough choices. We're all faced with difficult questions every day, from what to do today, what's for lunch, how do I, prepare for my will and for the families. So these questions, they're tough, right? So it ranges from the very simple one to the most complex one. But, these are the stuff that we must face on a daily basis. Vishal, I'd like to ask you that question. When people wonder like, what to eat for lunch? It brings back to the question of how you actually put food on the table and how you actually bring your business and navigate through this pandemic with all the hardships and the supply chain disruptions, the power crunch, the uncertainties facing us on a day-to-day. So how do you actually see yourself making all these tough choices in your business, and what was the lowest point that you've ever faced, especially in the last 20 months?
I think it's been, we've had to be incredibly nimble to try and navigate through all the disruptions that the last 18 months have produced. There've been, as I mentioned, there were periods of time where some of our businesses were impacted by the inability to export from certain countries due to restrictions, and in other times, the logistics, made it near impossible to ship product out of certain countries. And we've had to be as nimble as possible to look to try and figure out alternative options on if we can't find product in one country, try and go to another country. If we can't, if a certain shipping route is not available, can we do another route? Are we able to use land options? Are we able to use air options? So we've just we've had to really be as agile as we can, right? And I think one of the other panelists was also mentioning that agility is something that's been a real learning through this period.
Can you think of one example though? Yeah, sorry, Vishal.
Yeah, for example, last year we're one of the major shippers of rice around the world, and last year, when Thailand and Vietnam closed their border, restricted the export of rice for 1 to 2 months, we had to change all of our contracts and try and originate rice from India, which we weren't really doing at that point. So we had to mobilize a team on the ground to go and find good supply options, to check the quality, to ensure that everything was within spec, and to then execute accordingly. So that kind of agility is something that we pride ourselves in, and have tried as hard as possible to push. But it has been tough. Thankfully, through this period, we haven't had to scale down operations or let go of people. We've pushed as hard as possible to preserve all the jobs that we have within the company. We see our staff as key stakeholders in the organization. Today we have more than 500 people working for us across 20 countries. So we've we've tried as hard as possible to ensure that we've not had to scale down our employment, even though in certain countries, like for example, we have a big distribution business in Myanmar, and on the back of not just COVID, but also the political situation there, it's been very difficult to I mean, the retail sector has really dropped. But we've been able to, despite that, we've been able to maintain, our at least the people we have on the ground, if in the hope that business will return soon. But these kind of we try, whenever we're faced with a tough decision, we try and make more long-term choices as opposed to the here and now. So in doing so, we tend to absorb short-term pain for long-term gain. So we try and operate on that premise, I guess. But obviously, there's that's easy to say and harder to do. I think we realize that there's only so much pain that companies can't take as well.
True, so true, Vishal.
We tried as hard as possible to think a bit more longer term than short term. And as I said, we've thankfully COVID has also this period has allowed us to explore new business interests and new exciting areas of growth as well, such as what we're doing in the plant-based space. So I think that those kind of trajectories also keep us motivated and excited as well, even though it's been a tough period to go through. So it's always important when you have that's something that keeps you going as well. So yeah.
So true. I mean, I resonate with that totally, Vishal. I mean, speaking about it is one thing, but actually taking action, pulling the plug is another thing. And we're faced with situations where, okay, fine, so we can't do imports on certain goods anymore. Not just the restrictions, but purely because the producers are unable to keep up with the high demand. So it brings me to the question of retail again. We're seeing signs of green shoots of economy where I am right now in Singapore, and we see retail shops picking up again, foot traffic. How is it doing in Thailand? I'd like to ask this question to Mr. Todd. So in your retail space, have you had any experience of making that hard choice, that tough decision, knowing that things will recover, things will be back to normal eventually, but those really hard period when COVID spiked the most, the peak of the pandemic, did you have to make any tough decision? And if yes, can you share that with us?
Yes, well, let me share to you guys like this. In Thailand, we have the two kind of retail. The first thing is modern trade retail, and the second one is the traditional trade retail. Normally in Thailand, we have about market size about 40% that make up the modern trade retail at the size in Thailand, and 60% of the number of stores that's across nationwide. So when the COVID-19 occurred 2 years ago, all the modern trades have affected badly from the Thai government regulations that the time of opening and close and all the product and service have limitations in terms of social distancing. But for the traditional trade, it's still going on because most of the traditional trade is in rural area and in the community. So what we did and what JNC as retail, we have a tough decision is that since we are modern trade as well, and we have the limitations of the regulations, how can we survive in these 2 years? You get the point, right? So we trying to expanding our business from modern trade to help with the traditional trade, mom and pop store in community area in Thailand. And that's why we have new alliance in which we communicate with the local people, which they are local entrepreneur, and we trying to serve them with how JNC retail can reduce their pain point in terms of lower the cost of goods that they resell in their area. And we have the logistic process that from our retail shop to deliver to them. And we developed a new platform that link the local producer who cannot have the channel to distribute the good. We have the consignment procedures with these people. So that's why we have about 200 partnerships in this COVID-19 in 2 years. Wow. For the new producer. And we have a distribution channel into online applications that we develop and offline channel. And we have this traditional trade retail store become to our franchisee. And we have the new group of consumer in local area that become our customer to online and offline, because we have the loyalty program that I have mentioned to you earlier in networking business model, in which the local entrepreneurs that turn their house to be the retail store, they will have the system similar to cooperations model, in which every product that the local store have in their house, in each product have the point value. And when people buy things from this agents, from GNC agents, they can accumulate this point value and read them into cash. And that's why in these 2 years in COVID pandemic, we have about 3 million memberships to register to our social platform. And we can reduce our fixed cost in terms of our retail, but we can have the more margins in terms of business revenue to share with the local entrepreneurs, so that we can survive in this epidemic. So the answers to your question is that what is the tough decisions into this 2 years pandemic? I think it's about people. Normally in Thailand, we have the cultures in between rural areas and urban area that is different. In rural areas, people tend to listen into like peer pressures into separate group. So the concept of how to gain trust, how to make people become to your customer, and how to make them repeat purchase is the big if, and it's the big thing that we need to look down into customer journey. So this is the tough decision, is that the trusting and the word of mouth between people influence your brand. About reference marketing is the key for me. And I think we have a lot of local partners that become our allies, and this from the tough decision right now is become our competitive advantage for JNC Retail.
Interesting. From challenges to become your competitive advantage and fostering so many collaborations. That's really amazing. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Tad. So Christopher, the same question applies to you. What was the toughest decision that you had to make recently?
Yeah, I would say it's the same as Mr. Tad. It's about the people. So as with all mergers and acquisitions, with the merged number of people would have amounted to almost 50 people. And that would be too much to handle. And we are also not sure whether our clients, may be forced to drop us because of lack of cost, lack of marketing, and lack of sales. So we had to do a lot of assessments to understand where everybody is. And through that assessment, I found out that almost 10 plus people from my side cannot make the fit. So we had to try to train them and train them again. But if they couldn't perform, then they would not be able to, do their best. So just imagine that, some people that were with me for 3 to 4 years, and it's one pandemic, and I made all mistakes. I didn't cut costs. I didn't manage my my leadership, in terms of management. I didn't do all those things that now I learned, that I had to do. And because of this, I couldn't save them. And the worst part is that I had another partner, which is my sidekick, next to me. And he was with me for 5 years, and we built the business so well. and we did we did all the right things, but we didn't do the correct things. And he himself, before I had to talk to him to see whether we can rearrange things, he's the one that met me and said, Chris, I want to let you know that I'm gonna quit, because I know that right now with the merger acquisition, you will be catapulted to a whole different level, and I believe the company can go very well, but I am probably not the best fit to remain in my position. And that was a hard hit. That told me, I should have been tougher to the both of us. I should have carried everything, I should have put a lot more responsibility on him as well, so that we grow together. And then, when tough times will come, like the COVID-19, that we can go through it together. But I didn't. I took it all myself. I tried to spare everybody all the nitty-gritty, painful stuff. And then the result was that they couldn't match what was needed. And so today I don't have any of them now in the team, but I have a new bunch of really amazing, crazy team members who are really working hard and building the kind of path that we want to go from good to great, right? And that's how we grow from good to great. And I believe that those people who also have left us and pursuing their own thing are also doing well wherever they are, because they've received a lot of things from us. I had to go through I had to go through seek help, professional help. And I think this is a taboo, right? Like, how many of us dare to say we need professional help? So I did it. I instead of bringing it to my family and causing problems, I had my first son last year as well. So everything was happening at the same time. Yeah. So at home I'm stuck, and then at work I know this is all happening. So I instead of trying to go blow it all over my face, I seek for help, and that helped me a lot. It helped me a lot. So I think seeing a therapist is not wrong.
No,
it's actually good.
No, amazing. I mean, I'm glad you brought this up, because it is important for us to know that we're not alone. Probably the same problem you're facing. We're also feeling it too, but we're too shy to talk about it. So thank you so much. I just want to say that, what doesn't kill us only makes us stronger. And trust me, we will all rise from the ashes. We all go through the rise and fall, but at the end of the day, we will come out stronger and better. So last question for Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen in Myanmar. So, okay, I'm going to ask you the exact same question, but also what you learned the most from making those tough choices. What are those tough choices? How did you come out?
I think, again, I have to agree with my fellow panelists that people are the most important thing, right? And since the very, very day one, because we're a manufacturing business, right? So we do have a lot of people working across our group of companies, right? We've got 1,200 people working with us. So we try to maintain that as much as we can. And I'm very glad that with the support of our shareholder, our team members, I haven't let go of anyone yet. And that gave us the more binding relationship between me and all the stakeholders in the company, and that's just difficult and challenging. But in order to do so, we have to sacrifice a lot of other things as well. There's always things that we have to give away, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, like I said, we have retrenchment. That's the first thing. And we actually learn how to work better together among our team members. And to keep committing ourselves, trying to understand our expectation for one another, setting a new KPI, communicating with them was key. But the most important thing is making the baby steps sometimes. Right? We have to make decisions in a shorter time period than before, but we'll make more decisions more frequently, so that if there's any small little changes that we deviate, we can actually go back on the track and correct ourselves. That's, I think, one biggest thing that we learned. And second thing is that we are a manufacturing company, so a lot of logistics were in difficulty. So the cost of production actually go up, but whereas the people income are actually suffering, right? So there is a gap that we have to bridge. And in order for us to continue to manufacture, we have no choice but to make ourselves competitive. So we have let go of a lot of things, profitability, margins, other things. And I think the main important thing is not to let lose of your long-term goal, right? We want to make sure that we stay on the right track, but we'll go there, we'll get there, but maybe we'll do it differently. But we'll never be prepared enough, right? but we will try to prepare, but we'll never prepare enough. So that's the biggest insight that I will have learned, and moving forwards, I think that we will have a more stronger team.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alan. So business continuity, imagining future, future of our business in this new so-called next normal. We have 5 minutes left. I'd like to basically give the opportunity for all the panelists to wrap things up in 3 words on how you personally reimagine your business in the next 5 years. The reflections that we've heard just now across ASEAN and all the business players. Can you please summarize in 3 words, just key points, how you imagine yourself in 5 years' time when the pandemic becomes part of our lives and we have to start living with not just a virus, but all the different problems and challenges that come with it. So I'd like to start by Ms. Vianney. Your summary, please.
Only 3 words, right?
Yes.
Okay, agile, nimble, and adapt.
Agile, nimble, adapt. And that's how you see your business in 5 years' time as well, yeah?
Correct.
That's great. Queenie, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Expansion, re-strategize, and also continue to innovate.
Continue to innovate. Agent of change. Thank you, Queenie. Vishal, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time based on the reflections we've heard today in 3 words?
In 3 words. Man,
yes.
That's tough. I think, okay, 3 words would be plant-based foods. I think we're going to be doing a lot more of that. And we see that, we see us really progressing in that area.
Plant-based foods. Number 2.
Number 2 is better nutrition. I think,
better nutrition.
We are going to be focusing a lot on more high nutritionally dense products, so higher protein product, more fiber, because this is what a lot of our customers are looking for, who are some of the largest food manufacturers in this region.
Better nutrition. Number 3.
Sustainability. So 3 words, 2 words, and 1 word. So sustainability is where we see a lot of interest coming from the market.
Perfect.
We need to be able to better quantify, what kind of water usage and chemical usage is going on, is being used in the food production, and we're working on being able to provide a lot more of that information to our customers.
Okay, so number 1, plant-based. Number 2, better nutrition, and number 3, sustainable.
Yep.
Good luck for that, for your business in the next 5 years. That's where you see yourselves. And Mr. Todd, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? In 3 words.
The first word would be high touch. High touch would be develop relationship with the local people. That's high touching, to have empathy with people. The second one would be high tech.
High touch, high tech, okay.
Yes, about digital disruptions, about digital transformations, about upskill and reskill internal and external with stakeholder.
Mm-hmm.
The third one would be the most important thing for business of mine, which is the new retail, which is about how to making from single channel to be multi-channel and to be cross-channel and seamless channel.
Omni-channel.
That's right.
So high touch, high tech, and omni-channel.
The new retail, I would say.
New retail.
The new retail, yes.
Amazing. Okay, Christopher, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? In 3 words.
Starts with communication. I believe communication will evolve to more social, across offline and offline. We'll see growth in terms of adoption of digitalization, even to the underserved. And finally, the digital revolution, where we'll transform from what we see today, social, into what we consider as Web3, immersive marketing.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chris. Last but not least, Mr. Alan, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? In 3 words.
Automation, because we're the manufacturing company, we have to automate things and more cost effective. 2, because it's a global company, we look into transparency and responsibility for the shareholders. And 3, and diversity and open-minded for new ideas of innovation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Innovation. I get the common denominator here, being resilient, being nimble, being innovative. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for sharing your insights, your opportunities, and we all come here together and learn from each other and get the lessons learned from what happened to us and what's going to happen in the future. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's my great pleasure to be your moderator today. I'd like to thank Ms. Vianney Manao, Ms. Queenie Cheung, Mr. Vishal Vijay, Mr. Tat Hatchalileha, Mr. Christopher Talk, and Mr. Alan Nguyen. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I look forward to speaking to you, hopefully face-to-face in the future, in the next ASEAN event, probably in the next 12 months.
Thank you, Olivia.
Yes, we really enjoy your company. Thank you so much, and best of luck and all success to us, and I'll see you very soon.
Salam sejahtera.
See you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Back to the facilitator.
What does the future hold? Wherever you look, from whichever walk of life, we know there is great potential within, just waiting to be unlocked. For every milestone in your life, no matter how big or small, Baiduri is with you, enriching your life at every stage. For every business ambition, no dream is too big and no challenge is too great. Baiduri is with your business, empowering success every step of the way with our global outlook and deep local insights. As your financial partner, we believe in truly understanding your needs. We engage through meaningful experiences with you in mind as we build lifelong relationships. This is what co-creation means to us: enriching, empowering, and engaging the communities we serve for over 2 decades. Together, our journey continues as we evolve, turning dreams into reality, uncovering new possibilities in a changing world. This is who we are. Baiduri Bank, co-creating your future.